one. Boom. And we are live. I am joined by friend, colleague, Mr. DeShaun Tate himself. How are you doing? I know this is your time of year right now.
Man, I'm good. I'm outstanding. I'm ear to ear, man. I'm just excited for it to be the best time of the year, the most unpredictable 3 weeks in sports. I guess I should say Merry Christmas. That's what time it is right now. I was a little envious that of a couple things. Number one, I was envious that we didn't have an opportunity for this thing to be played out last year. But I will say enough to say that I'm also envious, man. You got a lot more of I need to borrow your hair sometime, man. You got a lot more on top than I got. So, but I no. On a serious note, though, it's March Madness. It's been a long time coming. Salute to the sacrifices that players, coaches, coaching staffs, everybody has had to make this whole thing possible and happen. And looking forward to April 5th when we finally get a chance to see somebody standing on the ladder with the scissors in their hands.
Right. I appreciate the compliment with the hair. Just got the fresh cut. Shout out to Gio. Let's talk about that for a second. I know we're all focused on individual matchups, brackets, upset players, some players stock rising, some falling. But as far as the aesthetics, as far as actually getting college basketball March Madness back, to your point, like when we had the bubble, we were all focused, how can the NBA pull it off? Let's talk about the aesthetics. Let's talk about positive tests. Let's focus on that for a brief moment. Are you shocked on how well things are going so far this in March Madness with college basketball?
I don't know about shocked. I mean, if there's any part of being shocked, I think that the fact that we're talking about still students and very young men making responsible decisions to quarantine and keep themselves inside without getting into a ton of trouble or just being around other people, being in places that they're not supposed to be in and so forth. But no, I mean, you've had, the couple positive tests. And then on top of that, only one team that didn't have the opportunity to play in the tournament. So far, so good. It's a success story. But we're just kind of keeping our fingers, toes, and our eyes and everything crossed that we can be able to finish this thing out, let it play out the way it's supposed to. I don't want any asterisk. Same way that people were saying, well, LeBron and the Lakers, are you putting an asterisk? They're not putting an asterisk on their title in the bubble. So I don't think that there should be one for the college game either.
Absolutely. And I agree with that. You are a basketball guru. And when it comes to around this time of year, you do specialize in this. You do your homework, you investigate, you do your research, you really put the time in. And it's something I've always respected about you. Maybe besides yourself, I'm not sure if you called that upset. It wouldn't surprise me if you did. I know Rashad Phillips, shout out to our guy, he called it Oral Roberts. I mean, they beat Ohio State, they beat Florida. As someone such as yourself who really looks into these type of teams, is this something that has shocked you on how successful they have been?
Oral Roberts, yes. I didn't call that one. Credit to Rashad for calling it, though, for sure. Definitely want to give him his flowers for it. But that one a little shocking. I mean, there's only been one other team, I believe, that was a 15 seed that knocked off a 2 and then made it on to the Sweet 16. I think that was Florida Gulf Coast with Dunk City and Andy Enfield. But that one I saw. I saw that one. I'm sorry, I didn't see that one. But I did. I do feel very confident in maybe University of Ohio or Ohio University rather to make a run, not only beating Virginia, but to also beat Creighton and advancing on to the Sweet 16. Felt good about that one. I think Abilene Christian has a shot after knocking off Texas. Now, granted, for the next game up for Abilene, that being UCLA later on tonight, they can afford to shoot 29% from the field and 16% from three again if they want to do it. But it's starting with their defense. They're probably the smallest team in the country, definitely still existing in the NCAA tournament. But guys like O'Banner, A-Smith, you got to give credit to those guys starting inside, outside. Just the combination between those two, men, have been terrific. And definitely want to give them their flowers as well because they certainly deserve it, man. That's what this time of the year is all about. Upsets, buzzer beaters.
Right. As far as individual players, this is the time where certain players completely skyrocket. Others take a little bit of a dip. I think we're starting to see Ohio's Jason Preston finally getting the attention that he deserves. He has an
Mm-hmm.
unbelievable story, being able to overcome adversity,
Mm-hmm.
defy the odds, and we're starting to see that. Is there any other players that kind of stand out to you as far as, hey, look what this guy is doing. This does not shock me. We need to look into him more.
Yeah, Cameron Krutwig from Loyola Chicago. Is he gonna be an NBA player? I don't know. Probably not. He doesn't even look like much of a college player nor a basketball player for crying out loud. But sometimes that's not even really the point remotely. It's just really
Yeah,
about, and that just goes to show you can't never judge a book based on its cover. I mean, he went out there against one of the most physically imposing guys in Kofi Coburn, which not really all that flattered by the way that his last name is spelled, but nonetheless, putting in some work against him and showing that finesse, heart, effort, little things like that. It's not all about necessarily the athleticism. Ethan Thompson from Oregon State, I think, has kind of helped himself, maybe potentially for a little bit more of a draft stock perspective than Cameron Krutwig has, perhaps. Buddy Boeheim. I mean, listen, I knew that the dude can ball. I knew that it wasn't a situation where it's like, oh, he's just on the team because of his dad, or oh, he's getting these many minutes because of his dad, or oh, he's getting this many shots because of his dad. Like, dude can really play some ball. And I am kind of curious to see exactly what's going to happen with Joe Girard, how much he's going to step up and contribute from a scoring standpoint, just because that there was a lot of hype and big talk about him coming out of high school. If you don't know who he is, Google him. He scored a gazillion points. But those are just a couple of them that comes to mind for me. And then the last one I think is Quentin Grimes, the transfer from Kansas, now playing over at Houston, and the job that he's been able to do. And it's not like he's just the guy. I mean, they've got like a real team. I
right.
think at one point he may have been talking about leaving to go to the league, decided to come back for another year, and be really interested for him, who I believe was a McDonald's All-American. Be really interested to see what he's going to do down the stretch for the Cougars.
Now, did you release your full bracket or is it going round by round? Because I did see certain clips that you've posted. They're unbelievable, like just tons of knowledge. Have you released your full bracket for everyone to look at?
I don't think I released a full bracket this year. I definitely remember the teams that I chose. My bracket is certainly not the most impressive thing, but I'm not against any questions that I have about it by any stretch of the imagination.
Okay, so we'll run down some games coming up. I know the people listening, games are happening all day. So some people are like, okay, this game may have already happened. This game is still coming up, but it's always fun to kind of dive in depth with it. But I do want to talk to you about Cade Cunningham. I am really big on Cade Cunningham. I think I know Rashad again reference to him. He's called him like Grant Hill like, and you see that he just plays with a very fluid motion, very smooth game, could do a little bit of everything. And they were my dark horse. I didn't predict them to win the whole thing, but give Oregon their flowers. Oregon, they beat them, Oregon State. But does this lower his stock? I know some people are like, oh, look what happened with Cade and he lost to Oregon State. To me, it doesn't. This doesn't shock me. It's okay. It's March Madness. I still think he should be the number one overall pick. Does it change anything for you?
No, not even close, not at all. Nor do I think that it should. Um, I'm not as big on Cade Cunningham as some other people are in terms of what they believe that he either is, excuse me, or will be at the next level. Excuse me. And I don't particularly really love to talk about what guy. I mean, I can project much like everybody else, but in terms of
Right.
what guys will be at the next level, because I like to enjoy what we're seeing right
Right.
now on the college level and appreciate that. And that's the same way that I felt about guys like Luka Garza, Tyler Hansbrough, and so forth. But um, I I like the approach that Cade Cunningham brings to the game. He never ever seems like rattled. He's always like under control. Always seems very poised.
Right.
I'm not gonna say that that team's not very good at all without him on it. They won big time games without him. They're very well coached by Mike Boynton as well. But it's clear to who he is on that team, the value that he has. I'm not sure if Cade Cunningham, if I'm just being honest, I'm not sure if he's special,
Okay.
to be honest. I mean, I like him. I like him a lot. I think he's really good. Am I going to call him a great player? I think it's too early for us to say that exactly. But the job that he's done in college basketball this year, with having to sit out on multiple different occasions, I can only imagine how difficult that is to be playing at the beginning of the season, then have to sit out because of COVID protocol, to come back, and then a couple other games he had to sit in a row and then come back and still be able to perform. Being a freshman, being very young with still,
Right.
you know what I mean? Like, you still have to be able to sustain that.
Maturity.
But he appears to be very, very mature. I like that about him. I don't know if he's special just yet. And that's not to say that he's not. It's just
Right.
that I can't put a finger on that just yet. When I think about special, I think that that puts you in a different echelon of players, in my opinion, only. Um, and I'm not sure if he's that just yet, but I don't think that he has to be that to be the number one pick in the draft. I don't think that he has to be that to be serviceable or anything beyond that on the NBA level. He's special enough. Let's put it that way.
Okay. No, that's really interesting. And I like the way you put out living in the moment. I think we get so caught up in what is he going to be? What can he be? What will he be? We're not actually enjoying what we're watching right in front of us and giving him that opportunity to just, okay, this is what he's doing right now. I like that perspective a lot. Before we dive in depth with some of the games coming up, let me ask you this. Do you think not having the powerhouses, the Dukes, the UNCs, the Kentuckys, has that hurt this year's March Madness? Because I know we all like the story of an underdog upsetting people, but at some point in time, just for the casual viewers, it's good to have, it's a little healthy to have some of those big powerhouses in there. What is your perspective on that, not having them in the landscape?
Yeah, I wasn't too bothered by it at all. I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, if you are good enough to be there, I want to see you there. But just based on the namesake, and it's much like Floyd Mayweather. You know what I mean? I
Oh,
mean, people may not like him, much like they might not like Duke, Kansas, Kentucky, North Carolina, whoever. But they tend to watch because they want to see them lose.
right.
Um, so I wasn't too bothered by them not being there. I want to see the best teams that were deserving to be there. The two that were left out between Duke and Kentucky were not that, and that's why they were left out. Um, I don't have anything to do with that. I wasn't putting the ball in the basket or anything like that. That's on them. So if you're deserving to be there, I would have hated to see. I'll be honest. I would have hated to see one of those or both of those teams find a way to get in, obviously not winning their conference tournament because then they would have, I guess, deserved to be in. But to see that somebody else get booted because they don't bring the same cachet or the same money that Duke or Kentucky would have brought.
Right.
But outside of that, you know what? I'll be honest with you. Like, I'm honestly okay with it. I really am.
Now, kind of big perspective here. Take me through in my audience as far as the future of college basketball. I think we're starting to see a lot of success from overseas. Obviously, the league in Australia, the G League, and obviously the NBA is very supportive of the G League. Will we start to see top recruits going forward choose different routes? Is that going to hurt college basketball? What is the future of college basketball in 5 years?
Yeah, I think that we will see more of that. But what we won't hear enough of is conversations about why the G League would not benefit you as much. I mean, Greg Brown from Texas, the forward, turned down the G League, and I don't know how much money that was, but turned that down to go to college. College is one of those things where, listen, if we're being honest, you're really only there for a semester. And on top of that, you get that experience just for a little while. And I'm not against, I think I forget who it was that said, I think it was RJ Hampton, if I'm not mistaken. Of course, I'm paraphrasing. When he says, I didn't grow up really wanting to go to college or to envision myself playing college basketball, put it that way. I saw myself as an NBA player, and that's why I made one of the decisions that I made was to be a pro. I'm not mad at that at all. Um, but I do think that there needs to be some conversation about how the G League is not for everybody, much like how college might not be for everybody. The way that college looks like it will be moving forward, I don't know. It doesn't appear like it's in really a great place. It seems like every other day or every season, there's something else about how we're saying, the NCAA needs to, get this right, or they need to do better, or they need to do this, or they need to do that. I think that we will see what the name, image, and likeness, what that will bring to the table for some of the players. That's still yet to be determined. But listen, you got the rest of your life to work. You have the rest of your life to do this professionally because it is a business. This ain't 2K. This is a business. So while everybody loves, I thought about this one day, Max. Where just being within this business and being closer to players, really realizing how much of a business it is, as much as we envision and love the idea in our youth of, I would like to go play in the NBA. What could be better than playing basketball every day and getting paid for it? But the training on the body, the traveling, all of these different things that you never really take into consideration, the sacrifice away from your families, and you're working on the body on a consistent, it's stuff that you don't really tend to think about until way later in life. And I'm okay with putting some of those things on hold, even if it is just for a semester. So how bright will college basketball be going forward? I don't have an answer for that. I know what I hope that it is. But I'm not really sure. I just hope that it's going to a really good place and that the NCAA does right some of these things, or at least brings other things to the forefront, instead of making it look bad optically when somebody else has to bring, well, the equality with the women, or the inequality with the women when it comes to the workout facilities and so forth, all those different things. People shouldn't have to bring that to your attention. That's what you get paid to do. That's what you should make sure that these rights and different things are equal. I just hope that it's going to a good place because I love college basketball and might be sad, might tell you a little bit about where I come from or what's going on in my life, but that's where I get my joy from, and I'm good with that.
Right. And I think to your point is what may fit someone may not fit the other person. Now college basketball is a very fluid situation. Things are changing. New proposals are being brought every day. But the better path may be go to Australia, maybe play overseas. It may be the G League, but for you, it may be college basketball. To just think college basketball is completely not valuable, I think would be a little ignorant because these brands, what college can teach you, certainly has helped so many players in the past. So I think depending on the player, it depends on what the fit is. What may work for you may not fit the other person. Let me ask you this. So I want to run down certain games coming up. Okay. I know you do your research. So I'm going to shoot this like a little quiz time. You ready?
Uh-oh.
And just tell me what team you have. So we have, we got the UCLA game going on right now. We'll let that go. So let's go.
I took Abilene on that. I like Abilene. I know that it's a reach, but I'm taking Abilene on that one.
Okay. All right. I see it. We have Gonzaga. Okay. They won. Got Oregon, Bam, Ohio or Creighton.
Oh, I'm easily going with Ohio. That's the one I saw them for going to Sweet 16. I don't even think it's close. The last time a 14 seed went to the Sweet 16, it was the Ohio Bobcats. I'm sticking with it. Everybody's talking about Jason Preston, but this Vanderplas kid, he doesn't look like he play ball very much. But that's why we don't judge a book by the cover. I'm going with the Bobcats to advance on to the 16.
Okay, LSU, Michigan.
I'm going with Michigan. I think that LSU has far too many. I don't feel like they're disciplined enough in some cases. They're talented. They look really good on paper. I think that Will Wade in some cases can be vulnerable to being outcoached. I don't think nobody questions the talent that's on this roster, but it seems like they went and got a bunch of some of the best players from the grassroots AAU circuit from that level, and put them on the same campus and put them in the same uniforms and said, go out there and play, develop some chemistry, establish that, and go make it work. And you're not going to beat Michigan like that. I'm going to go with the Wolverines on that one.
Okay. Now, Colorado, Florida State. I really like Florida State. I like the way they play. I'm a big Scotty Barnes guy. I think he can be a really good NBA player. What are your thoughts on that game?
I'm going to take Florida State. And I'm going to tell you why. This has been a team that consistently and persistently knocks on the door of the Final Four over and over, but never pushes it down. Get to the
Mm,
Sweet 16, get into the Elite Eight, putting good players in the league. Dwayne Bacon, and I mean the list.
Jonathan.
Jonathan Isaac.
Yep.
It goes on and on and on and on and on.
Breeding and
Um, yeah, two guys went in the lottery last year, and so I think over the course of the last handful of years, 5 years or so, underrated, underappreciated head coach in Leonard Hamilton. I don't think he's getting nearly enough attention. I think that this is their time to finally push that door down. We saw multiple teams do it. I mean, at one point, I think it was Villanova before 2016, kept pounding on the door of getting to the national championship and actually winning it, and they finally did it. And we've seen that over and over and over again. I mean, Gonzaga even got to a Final Four finally at some point. So we've seen that more than enough times. I think eventually it happens, and I think that this is Florida State's time to do it. So I'm gonna obviously take them in this game because I've got them coming out of that East region.
yeah, what Coach Hamilton has done in FSU is just unbelievable. The culture he's created, creating NBA players to your point, and now this could be their time right here. And he has a beast in Scotty Barnes. We're gonna go right here, Maryland, Alabama. Who are you taking?
Yeah, I'm gonna go Alabama on this one. I don't really want to. But you know what? Maryland is a really tough defensive team, and I'll tell you one of the reasons why I am taking Alabama, not just because I don't think that Maryland is all that great defensively. I'm sorry, offensively. But more so, and I love the heart and tenacity that they're playing with. I was actually just texting a buddy of mine, Big Tigger, earlier, and we were kind of talking, and I down talked Maryland quite a bit leading up until the UConn game, and there was some doubt, and I thought was for good reason. So I definitely had to swallow that pill and bite that bullet. But I think the difference maker for for this game is the fact that Alabama not only can score the basketball, and I know they shoot a lot from three, and a lot of people say, talk about how they live and die by the three, and if that thing's not falling, then you got problems. But I think the difference maker is that they also get after it defensively as well. Nate Oates has done a really good job with this group of guys all year long, won the conference regular season, won the conference tournament to go along with that. And, when you start talking about Petty, from three and being an experienced player, able to shoot from outside. You got Hubert Jones, who's in the top 10 most athletic guys that I think that was in this NCAA tournament, and they play at a totally different level when Javon Quinterly, the transfer from Villanova, can put things together out there on the floor for Alabama, and they look different. So I probably won't have them outside of the. I probably won't have them too far inside of the Sweet 16, but I do think that they'll get that far, even though it wouldn't be much of a super upset to me if
Right.
Maryland found a way to pull it out.
And then finally, USC versus Kansas. Who are you taking?
Yeah, I'm taking Kansas on that one. I know that from a size standpoint, it should be interesting because David McCormick is the primary big and not very many on that roster outside of McCormick. And USC is the biggest team in the country, not just in this tournament, but just in general. And I mean, everybody loves, Evan Mobley. He is quite a bit of a treat if you haven't had a chance to see him. He does need to get a little bigger. He's thin. I know I don't have much room to talk, but he is thin. I don't know if that's hula hoop in a Cheerio or hula hoop in a rubber band thin, but he's thin. And I do see some Chris Bosh similarities of things that I hear as well. So I didn't come up with that one. I think I heard that one, and it did hit home for me. But I think just based on me being able to trust Bill Self, especially in close game situations, USC would have to go out there and blow these guys out. And Andy Enfield just hasn't shown me nearly enough at USC. So I think I'm a trust the coach more so than anything on this one.
Okay. Now, DeShaun, before we transition to some NBA topics for you, is there anything that you want to tell myself, my audience, to look for going forward with the bracket, with players, teams, before we transition to the NBA?
No, I don't think so. I like Houston to come out of their bracket, out of their region. I do like Florida State as well. I mean, the way that this thing is shaping up, and maybe it should be for this reason, because these two teams we thought we were going to get earlier in the season, the game was canceled or postponed. and that was the two teams that were ranked at the top all season long, or at least in the preseason, and for the most part all season long, and that's Baylor and Gonzaga. And let
Yeah.
them, I'm looking forward to seeing who that better team. I don't want to go. You remember the time when who was that? What I can't even remember what year it was. I think Dwight Howard might have stepped in between and messed everything up with Orlando. But remember the puppets commercial between Kobe and LeBron, and
Yes.
everybody just really thought that they were gonna meet up in the finals and we were gonna have a chance to see that, but we never did.
Yeah.
It'll have that a similar feel in the event that we'll feel a little cheated a little bit. I haven't forgotten about that. I don't remember what year that was, 2010 or something, but it kind of has a similar feeling if we don't get to see Gonzaga and Baylor in the end, and likely that's probably going to be the way that it happens. But we still got about another 2 weeks of this thing, so a lot of basketball is still left to be played.
That's a great comparison. I was actually going, that was my last college question for you, was how good is Gonzaga? Are they really head and shoulders above everybody?
Yeah, it appears to be that way. Somebody asked me, is this Mark Few's best team? And I don't know if this is his best team. I mean, I think that this is his best situation, but I don't know if it's his best team per se. Um, but look, I don't think nobody can argue about who they are from an offensive standpoint, firepower, high octane. I think that there are some defensive deficiencies that get hidden from time to time. They got a favorable bracket where you have a 2 seed, and they should by all means. But they had a 2 seed in Iowa, a 3 seed in Kansas, a 4 seed in Virginia. All three of those teams, they beat those guys like a Bob Ross paintbrush, for crying out loud. It wasn't even close, by a combination of like 50 points, 46, I guess, to be exact. But um, I think some of their biggest things is for me is this when it comes to Gonzaga. Like, um, they don't really go that deep on the bench with a ton of really, really good talent. So I think that they're gonna have to avoid being in foul trouble. Somebody that could maybe propose a big problem for them in the tournament after they get through the region, uh, in the event that they don't meet up. I don't know if Baylor will be waiting for them, but I think Florida State is one of those teams because they are disciplined, unlike LSU, and they are talented, and they are big, and they do have the length, and they do have the athleticism, they do have the experience, and they do have a coach that's not vulnerable to being outcoached, at least as not much as Will Wade is. So with that being said, I think that they have to prevent being in foul trouble, because if you start talking about sending Drew Timmy to the bench, we could be talking about something different. One bad game away, for Jalen Suggs, maybe not having a great game. Um, I think it's something that could eliminate them in turnovers. I mean, he's the quarterback on that football field. So from that standpoint, I think that if you put him in a position, he's never been accustomed to a win or go home type of scenario. So that could be something new for him. As we know, the rounds go on and on as you get closer to the
Right.
national championship. It's only going to get more difficult, and the target is on your back. I like the way that they've embraced it. But I think one of the reasons that we have issues with picking Gonzaga, because of the reasons that they have disappointed a lot of people who've taken them on their brackets in the past, is they haven't really beefed up the non-conference schedule nearly enough. It's like, oh, who are they playing? West Coast Conference, really? But they know in order to gain the respect, they had to do that. That's similar. That's an old school mentality, I believe, that Tom Izzo had.
Yep.
Anybody, any place, anywhere, anytime, or whatever. I think Gonzaga had to adopt that type of mentality as well. They did that. I remember they played Duke in the Maui Invitational a couple years ago when they had Zion and beat them with Rui and all those guys. And so they realized that they had to do that. And they've done a pretty good job of that. Some they've lost, some they've won. This year they've won those games. But I think the problem comes in is when you have to turn around and
Right.
adjust to the West Coast Conference in a regular year, 18 games minimum. You start becoming accustomed to playing that kind of competition. And so now, once you win that, you have to instantly readjust to
Mm-hmm.
playing non-conference competition that only gets better as the rounds go on, all over again. And so it's a quick adjustment on the fly. And that's
Right.
where I think that's one of the reasons why I think they fall short. So if you're not going to join the Pac-12, by all means, I'm good with that. Fine. You got to bust a move at least over to the Mountain West and get some of those San Diego States, New Mexico's, Boise States, and some of those teams in there if it's me. But I know that Mark Few isn't banging down my door to come and ask me what I think about it. So that's my take.
Tate's take right there. Let's transition right into the NBA. LeBron James, the thing about him, we could sit here and talk about how like his greatness on the court or what he's done off the court, but just on his health, I think availability is one of the most underrated abilities. And he's always been available. And now it's year 18, playing all this wear and tear. Freak accident happens. He's out indefinitely. I think they said what time frame is from 6 to 8 weeks. You don't have Anthony Davis. If you're Rob Pelinka, you're with the Lakers. What do? What I've said is you don't want to just rush them because the playoffs is your most important thing. You need them healthy. So there's no need to rush them. You just need to make the playoffs. I don't think it matters what seed the Lakers are as long as they're healthy. But do you go out there and try to maneuver your roster and try to land a different star? Do you be patient and put faith into the guys that you have? What would you do if you're Rob Pelinka?
Maybe not star, but extremely serviceable. Somebody that's going to come in and say, I'm not trying to be this man. I'm not trying to take this spot. I'm here to fill a void, and I understand that. We're here to compete. And the person that fits that the best may not necessarily be the best player available, but it will be who they feel like fits them the best with the system and the chemistry that surrounds that particular player. I mean, you know what? That's what they get paid the big bucks for. That's when you're putting teams like this together, it's easy for us to say from the sofa with our heels kicked up what we would do or what should do. But now they got a real life problem on their hands, and you don't want to rush this process. You don't want to rush LeBron and so forth. But you have to show that you can contend without LeBron, regardless. I mean, that's just still a good mentality to have. And I'm not all the way sure exactly what Anthony Davis's health status is. I'm not sure if there's something going on there just because I've been this much in the loop on some of the NBA stuff, just because of March Madness. But I will say enough to say that you do have to go and find a piece that is extremely serviceable, that can fit in well, that can kind of keep you afloat. You're gonna win games, you're gonna lose games. But at the end of the day, this is really about getting LeBron back and making sure that he's healthy for this last push down the stretch of the season. That's just what I would do.
Right. No, and I agree with that. I think you definitely just still be competitive. You still have some really nice pieces. My last thing for you would be this. I was really high on LaMelo. I did the Wi-Fi Bluetooth analogies. I say he has that Bluetooth quality, connects with everybody, elevates people. Maybe ball dominant at times, but he knows how to get people involved. He's out. I think they've said probably for the rest of the season with his wrist injury. He was on Rookie of the Year status. Anthony Edwards obviously is starting to pick up some momentum. Have you been pleasantly surprised? Have you been, oh, this is what I expected with both Anthony Edwards and LaMelo finding the rhythm so early? Like, we don't expect them to be extremely refined. They're rookies, but they both have found so much success so early. This draft, it's really rare to find the first pick, the second pick, and the third pick to be successful. And it looks like all three guys will be. Has that shocked you?
It hasn't shocked me at all to see what Anthony Edwards has done. I'm not under the impression, without looking in a few weeks at the record for Minnesota, but I don't think they're doing great.
Yeah, not.
Yeah. So it doesn't surprise me. That's what you brought him here for. You're putting the ball in his hands. You're giving him a chance to showcase his athletic ability, ways to score. He just has a knack for that just naturally. I mean, he's scoring in his sleep. I mean, he's just a scorer. But that doesn't surprise me. The LaMelo thing surprises me a little bit, if I'm just being honest. I wasn't as high on LaMelo as a lot of other people were. But after looking at it, now I'm thinking, like, what was I thinking? This is a totally different NBA. So I think we're at that time, like what's happening now is that it is transitioning into a different league. Um, and my brain is still holding on to a little bit of that old NBA or
Yep.
older NBA that really wasn't that long ago. Uh, but it's an NBA in which guys like LaMelo probably wouldn't have been so successful this quickly. Um, and that's just not what this is anymore. And I've been the first person. Listen, I wasn't the big Luka Doncic guy. I wasn't the big LaMelo Ball guy, but I had words to eat, and I'm eating them now about LaMelo Ball. So obviously, I mean, dude's clearly talented. The size, the measurements, all those things adding up obviously plays into his benefit. And that's the league that this is. Can you run? Yup. Okay, check. Can you jump? Yup. Okay, check. But his vision is what's setting him apart
Yeah.
to me. His confidence is what's setting him apart to me. And I think that those are his maturity from what we saw before the draft. Unless you've been keeping up or really seen him and so much of him from the time that he left here and went overseas. If you didn't see that much, just what we remember, which was me at the time, of LaMelo Ball that was here in the States, uh, I just didn't see it happening this fast and him having this big of an impact as much as he has. Now, I figured there's going to be some times where he's going to have some really good games, and it's going to be like, this is the potential number one pick LaMelo Ball that everybody's been talking about. But I thought it would be a lot more inconsistent than it has, and I'm eating crow now, and I'm okay with that because
But
I've always wanted him to do well, but just having the eye for talent is just not something I thought would happen. And again, a large part of that is because my brain was sticking to an NBA that we saw 10, 5 years ago, even, that I just don't think the impact would have been this heavy this soon.
and he's shooting the ball extremely well, which shocked a lot of people. But to your point, it's okay. Like I know you personally, but for those who don't, when you evaluate talent, you do your research. None of it's personal. I know you want everyone to succeed. You just didn't see it. And you are one of the very few people who'll be like, you know what? I was wrong. Like I was wrong. You made me eat my words. I'm happy for the guy. A lot of people won't do that. So
Yeah, I know. Tell
yeah.
me about it.
So
I see it. I see it all the time. And I
like
don't know why you're not going to listen. I'm going to tell you what's not going to happen. I feel like when you do that, you dig yourself a deeper hole. I'm not going to be the guy that's back and forth and argue. If I'm wrong, you have to be able to, within yourself,
say I was wrong.
admit I'm wrong. When you start playing the in denial game,
It's a
you're
long road.
digging it. There's some instances where a guy's girlfriend might say, "Baby, you're wrong. These are your boys. These are your homies. Nobody's agreeing, and you're the only person in the entire room that's still talking about no. Well, baby, you're wrong, and that's your girl. When it gets to that point, that's when you need to look yourself in the mirror when you brush your teeth in the morning and say, man, like there's an issue because now you can lie to everybody else. But when you start lying to yourself and being in denial, that's where I think things start to become a little bit different. It's just much easier when you just say,
I'm wrong.
I was wrong.
And see, I admire you for that. And we give out thousands of opinions, whether it's NBA, college basketball. We're not always going to be right. Like I tweeted yesterday, and I was like, "Congrats to Oregon State. I was wrong.
I
Oklahoma
was
State.
wrong.
Yep, you were my dark horse. I'm high on Cade. I had them beating you guys. Congratulations. I was wrong."
Nobody's eating more crow right now than me, Max. Listen, I've talked so down on the Pac 12. I was wrong. Clearly, I was wrong. Now, do I think a Pac 12 team is going to win a national championship for the first time since Arizona did it in 97? Absolutely not. I'm a guy that has to be shown. Probably won't even be one. I don't think that there will be one to represent the Pac 12 in the Final Four either. But there's still a possibility because they still have all of these teams that are still remaining. But clearly, by the way that they have been playing, as you can see, I'm a Big Ten guy. Um, I was wrong, and I think that that's okay, and I think that that's when you're able. If everything flows a lot easier that way, once you're able to be self-admitting of that, I don't know why people have such a big problem with that. But guess what? I don't think it's about losing. See, I think the problem, the perception is that people have is that if they admit to being wrong, it's that they lost. So I've always had the mentality of I didn't lose.
I learned.
I either win or I learn.
And that's brilliant. That's brilliant. Now,
That's
see,
it.
that's not the Twitter culture now. Now it's you can't give credit to other people. You tweeted something because I saw your work and you did with Rob Parker. You're grind. You're a grinder, and I think that's why you and I get along so well. And I was like, man, I am just so proud of you because of the work you're doing, and I just absolutely love to see you doing well. And you said, you know what? A lot of people would see this as competition, but I see it as like we embrace each other, we make each other better, and we're not scared to give credit when it's due. We're not scared to say we're wrong about things. And I wish more and more people would do that. I've grown to learn. People won't, but when I see it, I definitely always like to show love to it. So thank you for always doing that.
Yeah, of course. No, that's what it's all about. It's about paying it forward, aiming to win, owning the stage, helping out one another. Listen, the only way that all of us have become so good, at least I think so. Let me just speak for myself. And I'm not saying that I'm great. I'm the best. I don't have a perfect bracket. If I did, I wouldn't even.
Best, DeShaun. You are the best.
You know what? I appreciate it. Don't oversell it because you're steering the people in the wrong direction. But I will say this, though, Max. You only get as good as you are, at least for me, you only get as good as you are by losing. That's how you learn, to me, how to win, is that you have to lose first. And I don't know, Floyd Mayweather might disagree with that. But somewhere along the line, he's taken an L. And that's how you learn to be so good at accepting W's. And so that's just kind of my outlook on it. I've taken enough L's to be able to get some W's. Because listen, those games are coming on at 12 noon. They're going off after 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, pushing up against 2 o'clock in the morning. By the time post-game press conferences and such ends, you're sacrificing sleep. The appetite starts changing up on you, so your eating schedule is a little off, and things get wacky. It's March Madness and amongst anything else. But at the end of the day, I stay up a lot of long nights, Max, when everybody else is asleep, and I'm still up, and I got my head in the books, and I'm grinding. So that's why I felt good about my Abilene Christian pick over Texas. That's why I felt good about my Ohio pick over Virginia, and a couple others I did not get. But guess what I'm going to do? When I see these teams next year, I'm going to learn. It's just like betting. If you bet money or bet, sometimes you say, one thing I won't do, I won't bet on them again, because you learned from when you lost. And so that's just kind of my method on what I take with me. And maybe that's even a little key in on how I fill out some of my brackets sometimes too.
Sharing that, I think our connection is going a little bit in and out right now, but perfect timing anyway. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for giving me your time. You're a busy man. Everyone's trying to pick your brain right now. So DeShaun Tate from Tates Podcast, I appreciate you as always. I'm glad you're doing well, and I know we'll always talk soon. So thank you for coming on.
Absolutely. No worries, man. At Tates Take Hoops on the Twitter, TATES TAKEHOOPS, where basketball lives. Go do your part and subscribe to the podcast. Don't save it for the local barbershops. Don't save it for the local sports bars. Anywhere you find your favorite pod, it's called Tates Take. Tell your mama, tell your grandmama, tell your baby mama, tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell everybody where they can find the best, the most entertaining, the most educational, and the most informational basketball content on the planet in the form of a podcast. Thank you, Max, man. Keep on grinding, my brother. I see you.